and make sure I submit to the rule money.
Your number one station for talk. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Femi and the Gang, in partnership with Sign Up Consult, present the latest invention in human history. 38 bars. Follow as we deliver live football updates at your favorite bars across Lagos. The revolution is here and live on Nigeria Info. Reach out for sponsorship and advertising. 38 bars with Femi and the Gang, where football meets lifestyle.
Information at its peak. This is 99.3 Nigeria Info. I'm listening.
Implementing them. And that's why here at Glasscon, we have a bias towards doers. The women that you're going to talk to today, including our panelists and our keynote speaker, are women who are already doing the work to break this year's glass ceiling. They have the answers, as do you. Our job at Glasscon is just to bring everybody together, amplify what they're already doing, and hopefully spark larger collaborations. The glass ceiling that we're breaking this year is the gender business gap. Even though women make up half of Nigeria's population, we only own 40% of registered Nigerian small and medium enterprises. So for every 2 businesses owned by women, men own 3. And I said, not on my watch. Our theme this year is Breaking the Boardroom, Nigerian Women Taking Business Leadership. Today, we are identifying all the obstacles along the funnel that discourage women from wanting to own businesses, starting businesses, running and maintaining businesses, growing and scaling businesses, and investing in other people's businesses. So it's a long pipeline with lots of leaks along the way, but I'm proud to be in a room full of great plumbers like yourselves. I'm sure that together we can come up with ways to plug these leaks at a grander scale than we are all already doing. Now, I will say, of course, that lots of people came together to make Glasscon possible. A big thank you to Nigeria Info FM for all the support. We're here today because my station let me have a 1-hour weekly segment where I could stop being neutral, because a journalist is supposed to be neutral, and actually take a side for advocacy. That's how the glass ceiling was born. Because given the chance to advocate, I chose to advocate for women. And the show has been so successful that the station also backed us to develop this annual convention. So a big thank you to our general manager, Femi Obong-Daniels. A big thank you to Serge Nudem, our CEO. And also a big thank you to Guinness. Guinness is a new sponsor for Glasscon this year. Guinness Nigeria, thank you so much for working with us on Glasscon 2022. But we also have some old partners coming back. We thank them for sticking with us. The Canadian High Commission, thank you so much for your support. Another great partner that we've had along the way is the government of the United Kingdom, represented by the UK High Commission in Nigeria. And that's why coming now to give the opening remarks for Glasscon 2022 is the political counselor at the British High Commission, Abuja, Jonathan Bacon. Good afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Sandra. Thank you very much for inviting me to deliver these opening remarks. As you said, this event is one that we think is very important, and it's one that we have supported, I know, for a number of years. So it's really good to be here. I'd just like to say a few opening remarks before handing over to the other panelists for what I'm sure will be a very good discussion. I want to start really by just talking about my personal experience of this. And so I'm a diplomat, and I joined the UK Foreign Ministry in 2004, so some years ago now. And when I joined, it was actually a very different place in some ways to what it is now. And so at the time, most of our senior leadership were men. And most of the British embassies or high commissions around the world had never had a woman as ambassador or high commissioner. And I'm very pleased to say that now has changed. So right from the very top, our foreign minister, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, is a woman. Our Minister for Africa, Vicky Ford, who was in Nigeria a couple of weeks ago, is a woman. In Nigeria, my boss, Katrina Lang, is a woman, and she's the first woman to hold the position of High Commissioner to Nigeria. And this isn't unique to Nigeria. And this is something which has been possible, not through positive discrimination, because all of the makes the best use of all of the talent that it has available. And I think that it's certainly since I joined, this has been a significant and a very positive transformation. And I think that as a man, this isn't something that I feel threatened by. I'm actually very proud of my organisation and the work that we've done. Although, like in British society and in many societies, there is still much more to do, and we certainly shouldn't be complacent. And in my own case, just to say that my wife is also a diplomat, and we manage two careers, and how we have done it is by alternating postings. So before we came here, we were posted somewhere else, and my wife was working at the time, and I wasn't, and that's because we have a partnership and also an employer which enables that. And so I think there's also about creating a culture where people can flourish, and also having a supportive system and structures in place in the workplace to enable that. And certainly, as someone who I myself have got 3 daughters, one of whose it's actually her birthday today. She's 3 today. I want them to grow up and live in a world where they can reach their full potential and not face any barriers in the workplace or in society broadly based upon their gender. I'd like to thank you very much. I've seen someone said happy birthday, so yes, thank you. I've actually got to go and celebrate with her a little bit later. Yes, so I'd just also like to, before I conclude the remarks, to say about some of the work that the UK is doing in Nigeria. And as I said, that we're very proud to be a partner with this event and to participate and to listen and to learn. But fundamentally, the UK, the British government, believes that women's rights are human rights, and we are working in Nigeria and elsewhere in the world to help break the bias for everybody's benefit. And I think that I'm sure that most people listening will be aware of sort of why this is important, but certainly related to Sandra, what you were saying at the start around the economy in Nigeria. Women and girls are at the heart of the UK's approach to economic development, and we think that enabling women to play an equal role in the economy is absolutely essential to economic growth and will help lift millions of people out of poverty. For any people who are maybe running a business or in decision-making positions, apart from the fundamental human rights importance of it, empowering women workers is also, of course, very good for business. We've seen statistics to say that employers that value all of their staff are more gender diverse, more productive, and more resilient. And also, of course, having more women with more purchasing power is good for the economy more broadly. In terms of some specific things which we are doing. So our action is guided by what we're calling the 3 E's, which are educating girls, so girls' education being one of our key development priorities, empowering women, and of course ending violence against women and girls. And these 3 E's sort of underpin a lot of the development work that we are supporting in Nigeria. And this includes work to fulfill every girl's right to 12 years of quality education, to empower women socially, economically, and politically, and to end violence against women and girls. And so really, I would like to urge all women and men on listening to this and participating in this to think how they can use their energy and creativity into breaking barriers and promoting women and girls' full and equal participation in the economy and business, in society more broadly. Because I think this real change, apart from being the right thing to do, has sort of a wide range of benefits to societies and the individuals that make them up. And ultimately, every country, every situation is slightly different. But certainly, in my view and the view of my government, some things are fundamental, and some values are very important, and we're very keen to stand up to them. We're also helping practically as well. So, for example, I mentioned at the start of my remarks, our Minister for Africa, Vicky Ford, was in Nigeria a few weeks ago. And one of the things she announced was about $100 million, so £74 million of UK finance working with the banking sector in Nigeria, looking at supporting entrepreneurs, and as part of that, women entrepreneurs who we recognise are facing barriers to business. And so this is something that we are doing to try to support women entrepreneurs who are trying to grow the economy and make a difference and transform their lives and the lives of people around them. So I think that there are lots of things that I could say and would like to say, but I'm conscious that we have a lot to get through. But thank you very much for inviting me to say these opening remarks. Look forward to listening to, I'm sure, be a very interesting discussion. And as I say, I've have 3 young daughters, and so I'll be listening intently as well to discuss with them afterwards, because they're very interested in this and have been sort of helping me prepare these remarks. But anyway, thank you to all, and I'll hand back to you now. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. That was fantastic. Thank you for those words. And thanks again for all the support for Glasscon from the British High Commission. And thank you to the Canadian High Commission as well for supporting us again this year, as well as Guinness Nigeria, a new sponsor for Glasscon 2022. Let me remind you, of course, my name is Sandra Ezekwesili. I host Hard Facts. And this segment, this event, this convention is a brainchild of my radio show, The Glass Ceiling. Now, while you are here, while you're listening to all of our great speakers speak, feel free to tweet. The hashtag is Glasscon 2022. So this is how Glasscon is spelled: glass and then con 2022. So use the hashtag, tweet, post on Instagram, screenshots, of course, of something interesting that someone just said during our conversation for the next couple of hours. So again, thank you to Jonathan Bacon. Now it's time to hear from our keynote speaker. But before I do that, remember that after our keynote speaker's speech, she's going to be joining our panel. So please don't hesitate to drop any questions you have for her in the comments. Now, we're streaming live on Facebook, Nigeria Info 99.3. We're streaming live on YouTube as well, Nigeria Info FM. This is also going out live on air on 99.3 Nigeria Info FM. But if you cannot listen to us anymore, because I understand that by 5:15 the stream on the radio will end, just don't panic. Go over to Facebook or YouTube and keep watching. Facebook is Nigeria Info 99.3. YouTube is Nigeria Info FM. Now, when we decided on this year's theme, our keynote speaker was my first choice to give this talk. That's because I've been following her work from a distance for years. She is the founder of Impact Her. Impact Her is an organization dedicated to getting more women to start and grow businesses. Impact Her is dedicated to closing the gender business financing gap. They help women build best-in-class businesses and access funding as well. Through Impact Her, she has reached over 60,000 women in business. That's pretty impressive. Glasscon 2022, it is my honor and my pleasure to give you your keynote speaker, Efe Ukala. Efe, thank you so much for joining us on Glasscon today.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Really, it's a pleasure to be here today. I am extremely grateful for the opportunity. And obviously, when you reached out, it was a no-brainer. This is an amazing convention, and I am really proud of Nigeria Info FM and your sponsors for really, putting their money where their mouth is. So really, thank you for the opportunity. So when you approached me talking about breaking the boardroom, and I spent some time thinking about it, right? And obviously in the context of my own journey as well, the word rise came to me. When I think about breaking the boardroom as a female entrepreneur, I'm really thinking about the rise to the top and whatever the top means to you, right? You define your top. So it's really about the rise to the top despite the biases, the rise to the top despite the challenges, the rise to the top so that you can achieve your dreams. And of course, using that word rise, I'm not really trying to minimize the struggles that are baked in the journey, right? I don't think there's any female entrepreneur you speak to on the continent that would tell you, oh my God, it was easy peasy. I woke up one morning and I formed this business, and then by the next day, it was perfect, right? So there are the struggles. There are to our speaker, Jonathan, he talked about the unconscious bias, which is something I also want to address. But how do we rise to the top despite the challenges we face accessing capital that you've mentioned, despite balancing, especially for the African woman who is the glue in her home, despite balancing the needs of the home with the needs of running a business, and not just a business, trying to make sure it's successful, right? Trying to be able to compete in a space that is dominated by men, right? How do you balance that and still rise to the top? How do you ensure that you are getting the right people in your corner, especially as an African female business owners, right? We know that with men, you always have the old school network, right? Like if you need if you want to go to talk to an investor, you can call Mr. Jones, and Mr. Jones would call Terry, and by the time you make 5 calls, you already know what this investor is looking for, right? And then you show up and they're like, oh my God, like your business looks fantastic. But guess what? You've done a lot of the groundwork. You've done a lot of the research. Do women have that access, right? So when we don't have that access, because we are, women also are not dominating the capital allocation, that we don't have a lot of women that are fund managers yet on the continent. How do we rise to the top still with that background, with that, sort of tainted image of what, those access should look like for women? And obviously the unconscious bias and mentors. So as I thought through that, I had to think about what are some key things that, we should think about as women, as you run those businesses, to be able to rise despite the biases and the challenges. What do you need to have in your toolbox? And some of the essential things that came to mind was, first, knowing your purpose, knowing your why. Indeed, a lot of women will say, I go into business already knowing what I want to achieve, and, I want to make money, but is that enough of your why? Is that really what will make you wake up every day to put in your best work? So really self-assessing, like even if you've started a business, take a step back to self-assess, to really understand your why, finding that intersection between what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what the world is willing to pay for. Or if you're running a nonprofit, perhaps not what the world is willing to pay for, but what the world needs. Bringing that into a melting pot and figuring out where can I contribute within this, within this narrative. A lot of people have asked me this question as to how am I able to balance working in corporate America as an investment lawyer and also running Impact Her, and which is an organization that has staff in over 4 countries now. And we currently have supported over 33,000 women in 53 African countries. How are you able to balance that? You have a demanding job. And I always say I'm able to balance that because I know my why. I know what gets me up in the morning. I know what motivates me. Impact Her, to me, it's not a job. It's a labor of love. That, to me, gets me excited when I see the women that we've impacted, getting the success stories, reminds me of my why, even on the darkest of the days. There are days you would wake up and feel like, oh my God, it's a lot going on. I don't feel motivated. Everything seems to be breaking. Everything seems not to be going in the direction they're going in, which, trust me, I have a lot of those while juggling 2 different things. But what keeps me motivated, what keeps me moving is the fact that I had understood what my why was. My why was impact. And as long as I keep getting that impact, as long as we still continue to make meaningful contributions into women's lives, that is enough to motivate me, to keep me happy, and to keep me going, that I can wake up every single morning and do it over and over again, and it doesn't feel like a job. So ask yourself, what is your why? And how can this help propel you? How can this allow you to persevere even on the darkest of days? Now, the second point I want to make is understanding that running a business is not a sprint. It's not the rush to the finish line to say, oh my God, yes, I have arrived. Treat it like a marathon. Treat it like, you're baking. It takes time. It happens in its own time. But one thing you have to do is you wake up every day to put the little pieces that you can't put together, because if you don't do that, you're not being kind to yourself. And this is where the breakdown begins to occur. For women to be able to run good business, and for anyone to be able to run good business in general, you need to make sure that you have the mind right set. If you're feeling depressed or demotivated, it's going to be extremely difficult. So treating the business as, a marathon and definitely not a sprint, is also going to help you manage your expectations, to help you pace yourself, to help you pause, to tap yourself in the back when you've made your little milestones, right? Congratulate yourself and then ask yourself, what is the next step? But as you would prepare for a marathon, you won't just show up on the running field and just start running and being like, what, I'm going to win this race. And I will show up this morning and I have 5 competitors and boof, it's just, except you're extremely talented, which is great. But if you're like most of us, you need practice, you need planning, you need to prepare yourself. So the planning and the preparation goes into, at least in the business context, it's really about making sure you really understand your business, making sure that you understand what your weak spots are and seeing if you can find the right people to fill it in. So that goes to hiring right. I've seen this mistake with lots of businesses where, they get someone with a CTO skills and they're putting them in operation management. You're mismatching. That doesn't help you grow. So make sure that as you look within your organization, you have prepared and put the right people in the right places that would allow you to succeed. Also, I think Jonathan talked about this when you talk about the unconscious bias. I also advise people, don't try to hire people that look like you and think like you. Because what's going to happen is that you're not going to have diversity in thoughts. You want people that would challenge you along the way. If you've implemented something within, a certain framework, you want people that would be able to say to you, look, how about try this, think about this, right? So hiring the right team, it's really a big part of, preparing for that marathon and planning properly. Product market fit is another big one. I see people that are struggling to say, I have done this, but people are not really buying my product. I thought like this product is going to explode in the market, or, I thought the sales would be this high. But have you taken a step back to ask yourself, are you feeding the market what it needs and not what you think it needs? Right? So again, focusing on your foundation, going back to that foundation to understand that, to make sure you understand that you are providing what is needed, and obviously at the right price with a pricing strategy. So understanding your finances, understanding the partners that you're reaching out to. Not everyone is a partner meant for you, right? You have to make sure that you are strategically aligning yourself with the right partners as you collaborate, as you seek funding, as you seek loans, whatever it is you're trying to achieve that require partnership. Make sure that there is that alignment and that those partners are bringing a lot to the table. And what do I mean by a lot? Like in terms of a funding partner, for example, I always ask people, look beyond the cash. Getting the cash could be easy, right? Not easy for women, I would say. Getting the cash, but also are they strategically aligned with you such that they are bringing more value to the table besides the money to allow you to grow? Because perhaps you could have all the money in the world, but maybe you don't have the right advisors around you, or you don't have the right strategy. That money may not be able to go as far as it would go should you have had the right partner that said, you know what are you doing? Okay, you're let's say you are producing sport drinks, and I will fund you. I will give you $5 million. But in addition to $5 million, I have access to, 20 sports teams around the country. So what I would do is that I will also pitch your product to them so that they carry your product. That is really looking beyond the dollars or the naira. And as you look at this too, as you run that marathon, I also encourage that you also define success on your own terms. Because what I find a lot of people doing sometimes is that they're looking to say, okay, you know what? I will be successful if I am able to beat the competitor. I will be successful if I'm able to do this and that. But have you really sat down and thought about, what are my strengths? How do I compete against, or what are my advantages as it compares to this competitor? What is my unique value proposition? What makes me tick? So that I can define my own success on my terms, such that I can be able to, focus on my lane to achieve my success, right? So I think like we should always sort of do that sort of self-reflection to understand us better, understand our business better, and set our own terms. And obviously, when you feel you're not winning, it's okay to stop, pause, re-strategize, and pivot should it be needed. And COVID taught us a lot of that. And for those, I think most of the businesses that we saw that succeeded during COVID were those that were able to, A, maybe they were essential products, or B, they pivoted successfully, not holding on to what they felt the market needed, but looking at the market to provide the market with what it needed. But obviously, in all of this, like a woman can do all of this and still, it goes back to that point, how do we rise, right? There is still the bias. I always say, recognize the bias. Don't be blind to it. Walk into the room proudly and looking the bias in the eye, but also as you look the bias in the eye and find a way to break through it, as you do what you ought to do with your business or with your team, guard your confidence. Because what we find is that, sometimes, you are faced in uncomfortable situations that makes you to doubt your own confidence. a typical example would be there was a lady that walked into a bank, and she was seeking a loan. And obviously she was one of the first to arrive according to her, but then this was also like in the northern Nigeria region. They wanted to attend to all the men first before her. And they were like, you know what, just wait, let me attend to Oga. Wait, let me attend to Oga. And, she said she felt so terrible. And it got to a point that she had to speak up for herself to say, look, I've been here waiting for hours. I really need this. But even getting to the top of the line, she was, faced with issues such that she couldn't fulfill. Collateral, they had asked her for, she had no access and so forth. And obviously coming out of that meeting, she felt highly defeated, right? Asking herself, am I sure this is a business I should be into? Should I even run this business? Is there even room for me there, right? So what she found in that place is that, yes, the biases sort of, made her to sort of break down, to doubt her own self-confidence. And what I would say to you is, in those situations, treat it as noise. It's just a distraction. Treat it as noise, ignore it, and keep moving. It is easier said than done. So if you need to cry for 5 hours, cry, wipe your tears, and keep moving. Obviously, these are institutional matters that we hope, because in some places it's baked into societal fabric. We hope that as we continue conversations with institutions, with governments, that these things will change. But in the meantime, we can't be oblivious about it, but we also have to find a way to rise above it. And obviously, when we look at the finance space, right, in terms of like getting access to capital for women, for example, I think this was last year that Quads Africa reported that only 3% of VC capital went to women, right? 76 of women founding teams only. 76% of that were channeled to male teams. So we understand that the odds are stacked against us for that, right? So what do you need to do? Focus, despite the odds, on building the best business possible, full stop. Not the best business possible as a woman, the best business possible. Focus on that, but at the same time, keep reaching out to your network. You can't give up. Reach out to, the few female capital allocators in the industry. Keep knocking on doors, keep reaching out to men as well. I'm not just saying women, but also trying to find allies, because sometimes once you have the right ally, they walk you into the door and that opens the door for you. So you can't let those, dread in numbers discourage you or kill your confidence. So keep guarding the confidence. And I think something else, speaking to that as well, we've also found, I think a lot of us actually talk about the imposter syndrome, right? And KPMG study actually found that 76% of female executives have experienced imposter syndrome at some point in their career. So that means if we're sitting in a room of 4 women, right, we're talking 3 out of 4 women questioning themselves, am I good enough? Is this business really viable? Are you sure that I am doing the right? I have had a woman ask me this. She was doing an amazing business and she said, Efe, are you sure this is the right business? I was like, you made about $56,000 last year. What do you mean? Right? But you're questioning yourself. So fine, if that helps fire you up, do it, but do not let that paralyze you, because you already have the biases going on, right? So you can't show up already defeated. You have to make sure that you're keeping your head above the water to rise. So against that backdrop, I would also say that I would also like women to, keep thinking creatively as to how do you also, in the context, right? In a society where we have lots of unconscious bias going on and conscious bias, what are the creative ways we can think about to ensure that we rise? I would point us to, like, for example, Isusu, right? Because we women have been talking about access to capital. We have amazing angel investors. We have amazing female fund allocators. But are we also thinking about the traditional African ways? Or are we dumping that because the West has arrived at our doorstep? Should we be dumping that? I don't think so. I think there is still room as we walk up to Silicon Valley and line up to say, hey, we have this great idea, put money in my calabash. Also look around the room in your community, in your villages, and ask your sisters, can we all put money in our calabash? right? We shouldn't forget the ways that our grandmothers have done it because now we are modern, right? There is still room for us to be able to incorporate African traditions as we rise. And to that extent, I would say that we should also try to replace competition with collaboration. You know, I was talking to a group of women and, you know, they were saying, you know, I needed this from her. She knows this. And like, oh, she's guarding it. She doesn't want to help me. But, you know, the funny thing is that sometimes, you know, you could be talking to someone who you feel like you could think you're doing a favor to someone who would actually do you a favor. And an example would be like, there was a funny situation whereby this lady was like, you know, I need these vendors. I heard you have some vendors. Can you share your vendor supply list with me? And the person who was being asked was like, you know, playing around, you know, oh, you know, I'm sick today, tomorrow, come today, come tomorrow kind of narrative. And the funny thing was that if only she shared that list, she would have found out that some of those people on her list were actually not the right sources. She hadn't tested them, right? And this other lady knew. And later we found out, and it was something that we ended up joking about. Basically, you thought you were trying to guard and protect your business, but the person who you thought that you were doing a favor would have actually saved you thousands of dollars. So sometimes, you know, within reason, it makes sense to think about things in a collaborative manner. You don't want to blend in, we get it. You want to stand out, but also work in those networks within reason. And I think I would end by saying that we should also remember that entrepreneurship is not an event, it is a process. You're not showing up today to say, you know what, I'm going to start this business. And, you know, once I do it, boom, it's done. Like if you want to build a sustainable business, it is a process. It takes time. It takes a lot of perseverance. It takes a lot of patience, but we are sure that once you put the tools in the right places, you will be able to achieve what success looks like for you. Indeed, I am very cognizant of the biases in the industry. I am cognizant of the unconscious bias, but reaching out to the right people, working with the right people. And of course, if we have policy you know, makers in the room right now, they should be listening in to also think about how do we help ensure that we are creating an enabling environment for women-led businesses so that as they do what they ought to do in the background, in their businesses, there is an environment that is waiting to support them to allow for their rise. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Efe Ukala is the founder of Impact Her. Impact Her is putting the money where their mouth is, their money where their mouth is, funding businesses, teaching women how to get access to funding. I loved a lot of the points that Efe made, the point about having a strategy for pricing. She also made a point about Isusu as well. I quite liked that. And I also liked how she said that owning a business, running a business is a marathon, not a sprint. I'm so inspired. That was amazing. Thank you, Efe. And I'm hoping that you who's listening at home through the radio or watching on Facebook or watching on YouTube or in the room with us via Zoom, I'm hoping that you are also inspired. It's really encouraging to hear what can be done. And you know that it can be done because she's already doing it. So thank you so much, Efe, for that. Let's quickly move on to hear from more women who are also walking the talk. And walking with us is Guinness Nigeria. Guinness Nigeria, thank you so much for doing this with us this year. Thank you as well to the British High Commission and the Canadian High Commission. Now, remember to tweet as much as possible, Glasscon 2022. Put up posts on Facebook, put up posts on Instagram, Glasscon 2022. If you have questions for Efe, drop them in the chat box and we're going to ask her as we go along. But let's hear from more women who are walking the talk. Like I said earlier on, this year we have assembled an all-star panel from all corners of the business world. So for the next hour, here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to identify the major factors keeping the number of women-owned businesses low. Then we'll talk about current practical things being done to overcome these challenges and what else still needs to be done. And then we'll talk about next steps. What structures do women need to build? I like how Efe mentioned Isusu, and it's interesting because her economy is doing an Isusu type thing. So what structures do women need to build? What structures do women need to provide the needed support to women in business? Like I said, we have a great panel. They're coming at these problems from different angles. Our first panelist works very hard every day to help women raise money for their new businesses. She's the co-founder of First Check Africa. First Check is an angel fund that focuses on women-run early-stage startups. Eloho Omame, welcome to Glasscon.
Hi, Sandra. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Eloho has been on my show several times, Hard Facts. That's why I almost said Hard Facts there. Our second panelist is the chief economist at Coronation Merchant Bank. She's also a member of the Executive Council of Women in Management, Business, and Public Service, WIMBIZ. She's used her platforms and positions to advocate for equipping the female economy. Chinwe Gwim, welcome to Glasscon.
Thank you so much.
And then our very next panelist is also quite phenomenal. She does amazing work with Herconomy. She's the founder and CEO of Herconomy. Herconomy is an online platform that connects young business women to opportunities for networking and financing. Ife Durosimieti, welcome to Glasscon.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. Hi, everyone.
Hi. And our fourth panelist is a chef. She's a content creator, a lifestyle curator, and business manager. So not only has she started and grown multiple businesses, she helps other people reach their business goals, and she finds innovative cross-promotion and management methods. Chef Obubu, welcome to Glasscon.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here, Sandra.
Okay. So, Chef Obubu, we're going to need you to enable landscape on your device. That way, we have the same format for everyone on the screen at the moment. Now, our fifth panelist was named one of 50 corporate women to watch in Nigeria in 2020 by Leading Ladies Africa. She's a member of the Lagos hub of the World Economic Forum's Global Shaper community. She works on various programs to increase African participation in the digital economy. Simbo Olaritogun, welcome to Glasscon.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Very nice to be here. Hello, everyone.
All right. And of course, joining the panel is our keynote speaker, Efe Ukala. You've met her already, but she's back as a panelist. Efe, thank you so much for joining the panel.
Thank you so much.
Let me remind you, for those of you who are listening in Lagos, listening via the radio on 99.3, that at 5:15, when the live feed is no longer on air, you can keep watching on Facebook. Facebook is Nigeria Info 99.3, YouTube Nigeria Info FM, and of course, you can join the Zoom room. Just check your email. If you registered, we've sent you a link. Check your spam, check your promotions, check your socials, just search for Glasscon. You'll see a link from us. Click the link and join. It's very simple. Now, let me come to our keynote speaker with this particular question, and that's because of something that she said when she was making her speech about having a pricing strategy. Now, it's something that spoke to me because when we were planning to come together for this event, we told several women. We told Nigerian women who listen to Nigeria Info to send us the challenges, the problems that they were facing in their businesses. What problems were they facing? How do they want to solve these problems? And I remember one particular business, she said to us, I'm a cake maker, I bake different things, but my problem is pricing. I can't quite figure out how to price and how I can keep that price competitive enough to give me a profit, but also not scare away my customers. So what are some tools, Efe, that people can deploy when they are thinking about pricing their products, their services, whatever it is? What should they keep in mind? What's a hack, if you like, for deciding, oh, this is what I'm going to charge for this photography session. This is what I'm going to charge for this cake and baking. This is what I'm going to charge for these glasses, this dress. What are some tips and tricks that businesswomen can employ?
Thank you. And that is definitely something, whoever that lady is, I would definitely encourage her to sit with a strategy, finance, or product pricing person to be able to go through. But some high level points is definitely she needs to understand her costs first, right? So understand, how much am I spending to buy flour? How much am I spending to buy sugar? So I would definitely encourage putting all of that in an Excel spreadsheet to understand them. But also, I think what a lot of people tend to forget are other fixed costs. How much electricity am I spending when I'm baking, right? How much water, right? Even if you had, free flowing water from the tap, you're still going to be paying water, right? So you also have to think about those overhead costs that may not be as apparent to you. If you also give sales discounts, for example, so let's say you say, every Thursday you buy a muffin from me, you get one muffin free, right? Who's paying for that free muffin? Have you baked that into your price point? If you are giving things to influencers, have you baked that into your price point? So that's where we find that a lot of women tend to drop the naira or the dollar costs and forget about it. And then later on they said, well, I priced this right, yet, I go to the bank and I'm not still seeing enough money. I sold all of them, but I still haven't recovered my costs. But that's because you are forgetting some essential costs that you may not be thinking about every day. So you have to even go as deep as calculating your hourly rates, right? Like if I spend 10 hours baking this cake and I have an assistant that helps me to bake this cake, have you also baked in that time, right? That you are spending, because again, most people would forget. So I definitely say, look at your price and make sure that you have incorporated every single thing along the way in your costing. Look at your costs and ensure that you've incorporated every single thing that costs you money and time into that, including the freebies you're going to give out. And also understanding your market, right? So understanding your competitors, because that also lets you know what customers are willing to pay, exception luxury good. Right? So if you're the Gucci or the Chanels of the world, you may be able to dictate your price. If you're like iPhone that comes out with something like extremely innovative, you may be able to walk into the market to say, you know what, I am going to charge $200 for this or 500,000 naira for this, although no one in the market charges it, but my value add to the market is so different. My product is so different that people will be willing to pay for it, or my customers are high net worth individuals, so they will be willing to pay for it. So understand your products, understand who your customer is, who your target customer is. Are they high net worth? Are they everyday people? Do you want the mass market to buy it? Understand your competitive pricing. And with that, you should be able to have somewhat of a good guide to be able to point to where you're pricing it. But again, this shouldn't be guesswork. You should actually sit down. It could be a painful process, but fun for me. Sit down, have your Excel spreadsheet, understand your market, understand your own cost, and allow yourself to arrive at, again, if you're taking a market-based approach, whatever approach you're taking to your pricing, arrive at something you're comfortable with and you feel your target customers will be willing to pay for.
Efe, thank you very much. I think that was a great answer. Let me come to Eloho Mami next. Eloho, I want to talk to you about First Check Africa. How do you do what you do, and why did you decide to found it?
Okay. All right. Thanks again for having me, Sandra. So why did we decide to found First Check Africa? I'll start there. We started First Check now about 14 months ago. We started as an angel fund. We're not an angel fund anymore. We're a venture capital fund, which means that we have limited partners who have invested capital into a fund. And we're raising a dedicated pool of capital to invest in technology startups across Africa that have women as part of their co-founding teams. The why, we already talked about some of the numbers. The why is the fact that 1% of capital that comes into the ecosystem at the moment goes into ventures that have all female founding teams. 76 or so percent of capital goes to startups that have all male founding teams. And then the difference is made up of startups that have the mixed gender team. Often when we say that statistic, the pushback that people will often say is, well, women don't start technology ventures at the same rate as men do. It's a very lazy pushback, because the reality is, from a proportional standpoint, about 10% of startups have all female founding teams, and that means 1 in 10 of those go on to be able to raise capital for their startups. So that's already bad enough. The other thing that we also know to be true is that, interestingly, if you have a woman as part of your co-founding team, whether part of a mixed gender team or an all-female team, those teams tend to go on to raise systematically lower capital than the all-male teams throughout their entire life cycles. By some estimates, it's as much as half. There's lots and lots of studies about kind of what the effect is of having some of these biases built into the venture capital ecosystem, of having these stereotypes, etc. What is not in dispute, regardless of which study you're looking at, is the fact that teams that have women in them or are exclusively constituted of women raise systematically less capital than otherwise. Now, I was making this joke yesterday that if you're a male founder in Africa, you're probably better off not having a woman in your team if all you want to do is raise capital, right? And that's obviously not the kind of world that we want to live in. The other reason that we started First Check Africa is because it's very, very important to us when we think about the technology ecosystem as a whole and think about what's happening. It's important to us as two women who are in this ecosystem when we don't see ourselves represented in some of the outcomes, right? So what I mean by that is technology is creating wealth in Africa in a very sort of unprecedented way. You have a new generation. I say in many ways, sort of, we're witnessing a changing of the guards, and that has happened not through our historical petroleum wealth, not through government wealth necessarily. You have some self-made entrepreneurs that are coming out of the technology ecosystem, and it's happening very, very quickly. Everyone's talking about Flutterwave's last valuation of $3 billion. What perhaps people are not talking about is the fact that that company has minted a few millionaires, right, over the last 5 or 6 years. There are no women around that table. We're not part of the conversations that are happening at that level. And I think Africa's gender wealth gaps and Africa's gender income gaps are already bad. You mentioned a couple of statistics, right? You mentioned, for example, that 40% or so of companies in Africa are started by women. We know that something like, I think, 3 out of 4 of every dollar of salary that is earned in Africa goes to a man, and sometimes it's for comparable work. One thing that I think a lot of people miss is if you look at things like our assets and our wealth, women are massively underrepresented. And actually, it's interesting. We go from salary being one number, 7 out of 10, to wealth being a much lower number. And what does that mean? It means we're collecting the salaries, but we are not investing those in real assets or in wealth. And there are many reasons why. We often sort of land it as women don't want to invest. Sometimes women can't invest, right? And I suspect that is a little bit more what's going on in some of the numbers. So we started First Check Africa because we want to see many more women be part of the story and the narrative that is being crafted around technology in Africa. We think there should be a Flutterwave that has a female entrepreneur out of Africa at its helm. There should be a Paystack. There should be name another company, right? It's happening, but it's not happening nearly at the rate that we would like to see it. And the final reason, I think, or the third kind of the why for First Check Africa, is that part of how it happens is you start to have women allocate capital. Part of how it happens is you insist that certain pools of capital are for female entrepreneurs. That's one of the most effective ways to actually make sure that female technology entrepreneurs get capital. Because if you make them play the same game as they've historically played, we know what the outcome is. It's 1%, right? So how about we have dedicated funds that are for women, and we're not funding businesses that are at lower quality. We're just saying, you know what, this particular channel is for the women. And let's start to adjust some of these inequities in the system. So that's the why. So how we do is we take capital, investors on one side, entrepreneurs on the other, First Check Africa in the middle, and we're investing capital on behalf of what we call our investors, which is actually our LPs, and we're deploying into technology ventures that, like I said, are founded or co-founded by women in Africa for the African continent.
Thank you very much. And I do love that you identified the problems and then said, okay, these are the things I'm going to need to do to solve them. Which brings me to Chinwe Egwim. Chinwe Egwim, from your vantage point as chief economist for a leading bank, you see the entire pipeline that leads us to this gender business gap. So from the number of women interested in starting business to the number who have the support or permission to do it, to the number who have access to financing, to the number who have the access to do the needed training and support. Where do you think, Chinwe, that the biggest blockages or leaks are along the pipeline, and what do you think can be done to fix it?
Okay, can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll just say that contrary to traditional perception of entrepreneurship, the gender gap among entrepreneurs has, narrowed considerably in today's entrepreneurial landscape. Men still dominate, but women are not particularly sidelined. There are some factors that I would list as roadblocks, and to be very honest, they affect both men and women. And then I'll just narrow it to the ones I feel are focused for just women. So one, of course, challenges with access to finance, poor technology adoption. There's energy and infrastructure challenges, poor access to input materials for manufacturing. So even domestically sourced and imported input. And of course, that would now lead me to saying issues with FX sourcing. While a lot of manufacturers are pushed into the parallel market to source for FX. There's also multiple taxations, and that depends on the sector that you're operating in. You'd find the technology sector really suffers from this multiple taxation issue. Then, of course, unskilled workforce. I think every entrepreneur you meet would list that as an issue. Now, some of the roadblocks I feel are specific to women include poor financial management, poor capacity building and support, non-affiliation with business or trade groups, networks, company certification issues. That's really a huge problem amongst entrepreneurs in the female economy. One perspective is that women-driven businesses may not be well equipped, or women businesses that are driven by women are not well equipped in terms of structure, required skills, and sometimes the absence of a medium to long-term vision around, scaling or expansion. Anecdotal evidence does show that a percentage of women-owned businesses starting or kicking off their businesses do this from passion or the necessity to have better flexible work hours or have better control of their time to allow them balance family and work properly. And what you will find is that some of these businesses lack structure and have foundational cracks. Some, they don't have the necessary documents from CAC, FIRS, PENCOM, there are a few others. They don't have financials, whether actuals or projected financials. Comprehensive business plans as well, and feasibility reports are lacking. So these are a few areas I feel are contributing to the gap that we see with regards to female entrepreneurs and male entrepreneurs in the economic and also business landscape. And of course, I would always talk about structure because I know when I come on platforms like this, access to finance is always thrown at me. So structure is very important with regards to accessing loans from financial institutions.
When you say structures, what do you mean? And also when you say financial reports, I hear that and it's intimidating because I'm a small-time businesswoman. I'm baking cakes, or I'm making dresses, or I don't want to talk about the startup tech stars right now. I'm talking about the majority of businesses that we got from business women when we're asking women for entries about their different businesses. So you're saying to me, give me your financial report, also structure so that you can access loan. And I'm hearing that and I'm like, okay, what does that mean pretend I'm a grandmother and explain it to me? How do I structure my tomato business? How do I structure my cake business,
Yeah, from access to loans, when you apply for these things, people may not know, but credit risk analysis are usually conducted.
Okay.
And these documents I mentioned, I'm going to drill down, are examined. We have to understand that, first of all, let me reel back. I acknowledge that there is a struggle with accessing finance. It is there. But we also have to understand that depositors' funds are where these loans are pulled out from. So your money, my money, people who are depositing money into these banks. And so a lot of banks are trying their best to stay cautious with regards to non-performing loans, which is what we refer, that's bad loans. Now, what are the documents? So when I say CAC, just registering most companies are not registered. I think I conducted, when was this? 2 years ago, a workshop on the back of my role with the UN as a national consultant. I made a mistake with that session because I had business owners and people from financial institutions in there. There was an uproar. It was crazy. Now, yeah, it was. So now business owners complaining that they've gone to this bank or that bank, no access to funds. And then those representing financial institutions were saying, but like, we're not going to give you money if you don't understand what your business is doing. And if you're able to, repay the loans and all that. So on both sides, you can understand the argument. Mm-hmm. Some companies are just running as business names only. They're not properly registered. They just have business names. And that can be problematic with regards to whatever stage or type of loan you're trying to access. Taxes are very well monitored. How you pay your tax and all that. So FIRS, LIRS, if you live in Lagos as well, those are agencies that you need to be engaging or go through whatever documentation process before you get what they call tax identification number. These things are important and are checked. I mentioned PENCOM, but that's really for companies that, you have employees working for you. Are you thinking that far with regards to paying them pension? And then when I talk about financials, even if it's a small company, I've sat in hackathons where I put my own funds in. I am interested in knowing how your business is doing, even if it just started. If you don't have actuals, you should have projections, right? It gives me a sense of how you're thinking about your own business. Nobody wants to place money into a business blindly. So these things help. Business plans, that is another session altogether, but some of the things I've mentioned, especially financials, feed directly into business plans. Okay. For companies that, like the startups that maybe have not really operated for so long, what do they call proof of concept? Yes, proof of concept. Those kind of things also help when you're trying to source funds. I'm now talking maybe from networks or from hackathons or pitch sessions. So yeah, let me stop now and wait for my next question.
Okay. For my next question, I'm going to come to Ife. Ife is the founder and CEO of Hackonomy. Ife, you've built a community of women leveraging on each other's strengths, each other's assets and networks to grow in business and in career. When Efe was giving her keynote speech and she mentioned Isusu, I immediately thought about you because that's also kind of what you are into, kind of somehow. Now, what would you say are some of the ways women can use community to overcome the biases against us in business?
Thank you very much for that question. And I love the various examples that Efe gave. So if you are looking at some of the things that women can do to stop or to change the game. Oh, sorry, say the question again. So how they can leverage community.
Yes, how can we leverage community to overcome the biases against us? Yes.
So community is important in everything, right? The truth is when you see a woman who is close to you, who probably maybe you guys were on the same level before in your business. And I always say that the easiest way for you to tap into or get inspired by another thing is when you actually experience it by yourself. You see there's a woman who came into our community, right? She won a grant from us, I think in 2019. But when she applied for the grant, she didn't know that she had won. So I said, okay, come and meet us at so and so place that you were shortlisted, so that at least there's some certain elements of surprise, right? At that point in time when she came, she didn't even have money to come and collect the grants that she won. She came in there, got the grant. She used that grant to get her NAFDAC number for her business. Today, that business she has distributors in, I think, over 7 countries now. Wow. She got a lot of visibility. She's won more grants because she's gone through mentorship and capacity building within the community. And other people within the community who saw her progress, they're inspired now to tap into other opportunities that come by. So I always say that's the importance of community. You see other people that are going through similar issues that you're facing, you're inspired by them, you can ask them questions, you can leverage like peer-to-peer mentorship. You can ask some of the community leaders, okay, you've gone through this thing, how are you able to balance work and life together? And there are other people that you can ask. So that's the importance of community. For women, it is extremely important for us to stick together and continue to leverage each other's strengths. A lot of people have gone ahead, and if you look at the top of the women at the top of their careers, or women who are in top positions in different offices, they're not that many, they're only 5%. So how can we tap into the knowledge that those people have, or what are some of the things that they did to get to that level? It's very hard for you to find access or to get access to those women on a one-on-one. But if you're a community of people, we can actually reach out to these women, and they know that, okay, if I come to this platform one time, I can reach thousands of other people, right? As opposed to them giving you their time. If not, they will not even have time to continue to grow their own business or stay at the pace or grow at the pace that they are. So those are some of the ways that community, helps you. It helps your mindset renewal. I know a lot of people, when we say, okay, we're giving out grants, we're doing a capacity building session, a lot of women are scared to even apply because they're scared of, one, rejection. They need to know that a lot of us who people think, we're doing okay and all that, we've also faced rejection, and we still face rejection even now on a day-to-day. How are we handling those rejections? If we're able to share them, they would know that it's okay to be rejected. You might get rejected today, tomorrow, next tomorrow, but one day, that door might open, or that door might never open, and that's okay too, right? When you're seeing and hearing all these things, I think it prepares you and lets you understand that you can achieve whatever you want to achieve.
Ife,
so
that's how so much. That was a brilliant answer, Ife. Thank you so much. Let me remind you, of course, those of you who are listening to us via the radio, that once the radio feed goes dead and we're back to sports on 99.3 Nigeria Info, you can switch to YouTube, Nigeria Info 99.9 Nigeria Info FM. That's for YouTube. Facebook is Nigeria Info 99.3, or quickly check your email. If you're registered, check your email, find the link, and join us in the Zoom room. Now, Chef Obubu, you run multiple businesses at once. What were some of the obstacles that are more targeted at women than men? How did you overcome them?
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, but you're upside down.
Oh, I am? I have been wondering because everyone's upside. Okay, wait. Am I still upside down?
No, you're not. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. So, yes, like you said, I run multiple.
Oh, looks like her network isn't great. So we're going to come back to her. We're going to come back to Chef Obubu. Her connection is not very good. We'll come back to you. Your connection isn't very good, so we'll have to come back to you. Let's move to Simbo very quickly. Simbo, lots of the women who sent me emails about their businesses also talked about getting their businesses out there, getting their businesses online. Which digital skills do you think are key to getting more women-owned businesses online, and what are some of the ways that we can go about upskilling enough Nigerian women in those areas?
Hey, fantastic question. So first and foremost, I think the last couple of years, last 2 years primarily, have shown everyone how critical it is to be a little bit online, or at least be using digital in your business. But before we get to digital skills first, I think if we look at the overall, when we look at like digital inclusion in itself and how people are connected, particularly people who are running businesses, there are a couple of things that are critical elements, and not just digital skills. So the devices. There is robust internet, or at least affordable, good internet, and then there's digital skills. Now, the thing is, you can't focus on digital skills alone without focusing on the other ones, because by the time you're done getting the training, how exactly do you implement them? I think it's important to kind of look around the whole thing. And I'll be honest, perhaps because I'm a little bit in that space, I think that there is an onslaught of available digital skills out there. So I think that a lot of people are doing trainings on digital skills. A lot of people are doing, digital literacy trainings, how to connect on the internet, how to do this, how to do things like that. A lot of them, I think, solving for relevance is important. That's one when it comes to digital skills. However, I think one of some of the most critical things is people even need to be able to access the devices and the internet. I'll be honest and say that over the last couple of years, it's gotten significantly better. We know now that we can get, below 20K devices, so it's easy for everybody to get on the internet. So it's easy for you to use at least an internet-connected device. And also, over the last couple of years, as well with telcos, we see that it's a little more accessible to get cheaper data or affordable internet. So there are more people that are coming online. However, I think that the barrier to digital access, the way people are thinking about it, when we're thinking about connecting women to the digital economy, the barrier to it is not as complicated as many people try to think that it is. Because when you think about digital skills, people think that, should I be able to learn to, build a website? Should I be able to learn to, code or do things like that? Not at all. The first thing that people have to understand actually first is get connected. That's literally the most important thing. And then keep it, and then start simple. There's no fancy way to do these things. There's no way that says that this is absolutely what you have to learn to do, build a website or just like. I'm actually not a big fan of necessarily building websites first. Sometimes you have to start small. So use your social media pages. Many people have social media pages that they're not necessarily even active on. So start on social media. Start on your instant messaging apps. Put up stuff on your stories. You're selling something, you're trying to get a little bit out there. Start within your circle, and then proactively learn to do more. So it's when you start that you now realize, okay, so where else do I need to get to? Where else what kind of access do I need? Do I need more customers? What else do I need to do? And sometimes just being able to have a phone and Google is literally what you need. It is very critical that we're getting more women into the digital economy. There was a report I read from the AI4A, the Affordable Alliance for Internet, I believe, I can't remember what it's called, that said that in low and medium income countries, about $126 billion is lost or was lost last year because women weren't connected to the digital economy in particular. So it's significantly more important. I'm glad that there's more visibility about that. And I think the most important thing for people to learn is that it's not complicated. It's just start simple, start easy, literally go on YouTube and say, okay, how do I do this? I was speaking with someone with a vendor that I was trying to get connected to. And I realized that every time I go to her store, it was a hassle. First, to even call and book an appointment was just, significantly stressful. And we had a conversation. She was like, "Oh yeah, she was really reluctant because sometimes she could get hacked if people start booking online. The experience may not be that." And we spoke about it, and I just left it. A couple of months later, I saw that she had set up like an automated booking system, and the experience is significantly more. I haven't spoken with her, but I'm sure that she's even getting more business or doing more business now. So it's tangible. It's literally like tangible. What I call tangible rewards for business owners and women who are on the digital economy.
All right, thank you very much, Simbo. Simbo says, first step, get connected, and it doesn't need to be fancy, it doesn't need to be expensive. Get connected first, and then let's move on from there. So I hope that answers the question for a lot of the women who sent us emails about their business and how to get their businesses out there. Now it's time for the business clinic. On the glass ceiling and at Glasscon, we have a bias towards action. right? And applying our insights to the real world and real world problems. And since the real world problem is women in business, what better way to apply our insights than to help a few business women work through their current challenges. So I am hoping that 3 of the women whose businesses we really liked have joined us now as panelists, and they're here, so that if our panelists have further questions that they need to clarify, those women will be able to answer as we go along. But our first businesswoman is a lawyer who owns her own legal practice, Andromeda Oragui. Welcome to Glasscon, if she is in the room already. Our second businesswoman owns a Zobo bottling company. She bottles Zobo. Victoria Akinwumi Lamid, welcome to Glasscon, if she's in the room. Our third businesswoman helps kids improve their reading online. Ogechi Ogbarago, welcome to Glasscon, if she's online. Our next step is to share our screen so that you actually see the business that these women are into and what exactly the challenges for their businesses are. Now, as I told you, Andromeda Oragui has her own practice, Andromeda Solicitors, that's the name of her practice. Her major problem is that she cannot get enough time to face the practice because of childcare and other responsibilities at home. So it's interesting that Efe mentioned that, and it's also interesting that Efe mentioned that during her keynote speech, because Efe mentioned that she's an investment lawyer and she also has Impact Her on the side. So how is she able to juggle all of that? Well, our businesswoman, the lawyer, doesn't know how to do both. And she says that because of childcare and other responsibilities at home, it means that she can't get enough clients to fund renting an office and going on trainings at the same time. And without renting an office or going on trainings, she can't get more clients. So there's a vicious cycle there. So my first question would be, well, what could a solution be for someone like Andromeda? And now for my panelists, of course, who want to say something about her, just kindly raise your hands and then I'll come to you and then you can share your thoughts on what you think that she can do. Now, our second business is the Zobo bottling business. It's called WAPSCO. The businesswoman is Victoria Akinwumi Lamid. Victoria has been making and selling Zobo for 27 years. When I heard this, I told her, yo, it's almost as if I should make you a panelist. So she's grown her passion into an operation that produces 1,000 bottles of Zobo a day, 5 days a week. Distributors move over 90% of her output, but she also maintains a small retail operation for the rest. While she makes the drink, she relies on a supplier for the bottles. Now, the problem is that the bottles are too expensive. The price of bottles, plastic bottles, has shot up. So if she wants to keep making a profit, she either has to get smaller bottles or order larger quantities, which would be a stretch for her. So she doesn't know how to solve that particular problem. And she's hoping that the women on our panel today could give her an insight about how to solve that problem. Our final businesswoman is the Accidental Texas. We're calling Ogechi an Accidental Texas because she never planned on starting this company until the pandemic happened. She's a teacher, and she created this website for her students to keep practicing their reading without coming to school. The problem she's facing is purely on the tech side. She thinks that there's a viable business model, but she doesn't have the tech skills to create an MVP. That's a minimum viable product. So these are our 3 business women. I'll open it up to the panel to start asking, questions or sharing a few insights into what they think could happen. So we have several hands up. I will go with, let me go to Efe first. We'll come to Efe first, and then we'll come to Efe. Efe, go ahead.
Hi, guys. So my response is for the lady who said, how can she do both, and that she doesn't know how she can, structure her life pretty much to continue remaining successful. So I always tell people to be an entrepreneur is almost worse. I wouldn't say worse in terms of like bad, but it's the time when you don't have time, because the beginning of your business is very, very critical to the success of your business, right? And to be honest, I used to work, and I'll use my own self as an example. I used to work in a 9 to 5 in a multinational, actually, and I used to get paid a lot, right? And even when I got paid a lot. I couldn't even save or do anything that could even help me get extra income or whatever. I quit my job now, and I now started my business full time. My first week in business, we got robbed. My first week full-time entrepreneurship, after we had gotten a workshop and set up, we got robbed. Everything was stolen. And I was like, God, how am I going to do this? I'm saying this story so that you understand that things can get really bad, but you can actually move on from there where you have the right structure, right? I was so broke to the point where I had to take money out of my pensions. So just to give you guys context. And then obviously we didn't have any money because we had to now rebuy all the things that we had bought and all that. But what did I do differently? Because I knew that, now we don't have money. We have to put in all our energy, all our resources and all that so that we can even take this business to the next level and actually, use whatever profits that we were getting well. I had to get structure at home. It is impossible for you to want to do everything by yourself. And this is in work and this is also in business. So let's say, for example, this her own case study seemed like she's a mom. So obviously she has responsibilities at home and stuff like that. You need to get a nanny. You can't say, I don't like people in my space. It's the sacrifice you have to pay. A lot of people, it would be difficult because you get a lot of people in your ears telling you, you're not doing enough. You're an irresponsible mom. You are this. And I got all of that. But I had to keep my head screwed on, and funny enough, this discrimination or these biases might even come from the people that you love. So your mom, for example, might call you. There was a time I was trying to raise money for my business and I had gone from Lagos. I was supposed to go to the UK to do a partnership announcement with Amazon. And we had a family wedding in Marrakesh. So I routed my tickets as Lagos.
Hi guys, I'm Samuel Ajibola, aka Spiff of the Joneses, and you are listening to Femi and the Gang on Nigeria Info.
Indeed, this is 99.3 Nigeria Info, and I'm sure you've been enjoying the very intelligent and interesting conversations around the Glasscon experience for this year, 2022. It was awesome last year, and it's amazing that Sandra has put together this two with Nigeria Info to ensure that women are galvanized to achieve even more in their respective lives. Enabling women to play an equal role in the economy is essential to sustained economic growth and will help lift millions out of poverty. That was the intro line that we had just several minutes back from one of the presenters for this amazing experience here. The UK Nigeria official Twitter handle also putting out information on this, so it's massive, the Glasscon experience. And of course, you can keep listening to it beyond just your radio set as we go back to football now on Football Frenzy with Femi and the Gang. You can go back to the Nigeria Info YouTube platform and keep streaming live the action from the Glasscon experience for 2022. Yeah, so that's it, and it's lovely to see what we're having right in front of us here, and I'm sure that this should inspire some ladies to go out there and achieve even more as we try to make the society better from a Nigeria Info perspective. Don't forget, we keep talking for development, and that's why we have a project like this one. Right now, let's get over to football from a radio perspective. But like I told you want to keep enjoying the Glasscon experience for this year, then just run over to search for Nigeria Info's platform on YouTube, the channel. Yeah, you can get that live on the Nigeria Info channel on YouTube. Well, my name is Chuma Nali, and there's Anthony Dimwaka in here with me too. We have a massive game that kicks off by 5:30 p.m. our time, the Manchester Derby, and it's not just about that for us, because there's also far now? How far?
I can finally hear you now.
Yeah, David. What's happening, man? What's happening over there?
As you can probably have fathomed by now, it's really loud in there. Overdose is tearing the place up as usual. We have a lot of fans here. I would say it was a smooth ride, but I am sure that seeing this crowd, it makes it all worth it.
Wow, yeah, you guys had to go through quite a distance. Indeed. That's about it. So, David, yeah, I know, because there's so much happening around you there, but we have a minute and a half before the next commercial break. You want to speak to at least one fan, and then we'll come back to you after the commercial break. Okay.
That's perfectly, but I think you'd have to take the commercial break.
Right.
Pretty much soften the atmosphere, and when you return, whatever you decide to, we'll have notice, the fans. But it's quite an atmosphere here in Alagbole, like David mentioned. Not the perfect role commuting, but I mean, this is what we do for the fans. So yes, we'll have notice be part of the conversation today.
So, Emmanuel, thank you so much. That's a great
as exchange. So she can create a community where she exchanges labor with women, that because there's some women too might be in her community, in her area, and those ones probably don't have time to cook, or they think that would work better for her, because any other thing she has to do will still take more money and more time, and she doesn't already have money and time, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Chef Obobo. That was really great. All right, so we have Oge in the room, and Oge is saying to us that she already has an MVP. I'm seeing a message from her in the chat. Tunde, can you help with that? Can you open up the chat so that I see that message from Oge? I don't think I'm still seeing it anymore. Hopefully we can find a way to see that message. It's right there. It's in the chats. Or maybe Q&A. Is it Q&A or chats? I'm not sure where. Is that the only message there? That's the only message we can see. All right. So if Oge can resend the message so that we can come back to it. But yes, how does somebody, and I think that Eloho is the best person to answer that question, to be honest with you. How does someone who is a teacher, who doesn't have a lot of tech knowledge, how does that person go about, upscaling her business? Because she thinks that she has a viable business model. Is that a message there? Am I seeing the message from Oge now?
I can actually see the message.
You can? Fantastic. Okay,
yeah,
great.
I saw it a while ago.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
I saw it a while ago.
What do you think, Eloho?
Sure. It says, hello, Sandra. I do have an MVP on kidsreadart.com, but our challenge is creating a business plan, pitch deck with projections to enable us access funds or grants. So I guess let me try and answer both questions. The first is, say you didn't have an MVP and you wanted to go about building an MVP, or a non-technical person. By the way, I think there's this myth that, maybe it's not a myth, but I think people will be surprised at the proportion of male founders that are also not technical founders. I think sometimes we operate on the assumption that women are constantly operating at this technical deficit, right? So, don't feel, the first response would be, don't feel you have a gap in some way. There are all kinds of founders who don't have technical backgrounds that start tech companies. Two approaches. I think the first is, you say to yourself, design this platform, I need somebody to build it. And obviously I'm going to have to outsource or hire those skills. There are a couple of dev shops in Nigeria that provide designers and web developers that can do this for you. You can also find freelancers on remote work platforms that can also do this kind of work for you. The most important thing is start with a designer, think about what it is that you want to build, and then go off and build. If you're non-technical, it sometimes means that managing those kinds of people, especially remotely, can be a little bit tougher. But there's lots of resources online around how you sort of organize that. The other thing that I encourage people who are non-technical to do when they want to build MVPs is look at what we call no-code tools. So people are often surprised that you can build an app without ever writing a line of code, for example, using platforms called Adalo and Bubble and things like that. Sometimes there's a little bit of a learning curve to sort of watch videos and things and learn how to use them, but they're designed to help in your deck, and will track where investors spend time. It's a great place to start because it tells you, first of all, they have lots of templates to help you build your decks, but it also tells you, based on the data that they can see from how people use their platform, it tells you how investors, which slides and which content investors spend time on. So I particularly like directing people there. Aside from that, like I said, there's lots of resources. One good way or good hack to sort of find your way online is to follow accelerators. They often have very good content because they do programmatically, they help founders do all of these things, putting together business plans, pitch decks, projections. I think so. So, like I said, those resources are there. The third option is to again go to remote work platforms, whether it is Fiverr or there's another one, Upwork, and look for people there who you might be able to pay to help you build a business plan or build a pitch deck. Of course, there are other people available locally who can do it for you, but if you don't necessarily have the networks into people who might be former investment bankers and things like that, these platforms actually have people who spend time doing this over and over and over again for multiple entrepreneurs from all over the world. And they're often a very good untapped resource because they see this very often, and they help other entrepreneurs like yourself do these kinds of things very often. So I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. I hope that helps as well. Thank you. That was a great answer. Chinwe's hand is up. Chinwe, what do you want to talk about?
Okay, so I have comments for all three, and I'll try my best to be quick. So for the lawyer, I see one of her concerns are trainings, and I was just going to suggest virtual trainings, and also maybe
she can't pay for them. She doesn't have the money to pay for virtual trainings.
There are some virtual trainings that are close to being free, actually. If you check, there are. And then also getting engaged in mentoring programs that don't necessarily require you to make any payments. I think I'm aware that Leading Ladies Africa, they run a mentoring program, and they try their best to match the mentee with a mentor that is aligned to the field that the mentee is operating in. And then joining networks and communities to boost marketing of her services. And I also think she should check if some of her legal services are catering to needs that are in high demand. This is in a bid or in an attempt to generate increased revenue, and then maybe she can now streamline to the focus area that she wants, right? And then branding is important, of course. So these are a few things I feel she may want to consider. That's the lawyer. Now for the Zobo person. Yeah. So supply chain disruptions, of course, I'm sure when you hear us talking about inflation, that's what we're always saying. So supply chain disruptions have contributed to this increase in the bottles that she's speaking about. She can consider smaller bottles, of course. That's a suggestion that she gave. So yes, some fast moving consumer good companies, I'm not going to mention their names, are doing this. Some are getting
smaller bottles
or powdered soap. We're all going to supermarkets. We're picking up things. When you touch the sachet, it's not as it's not as full as before. So there's nothing wrong with you adopting that approach, right? Okay. Some cocktail companies as well have been able to, re-strategize. I don't know if this is the right terminology, but I think they're using pouches as opposed to bottles. And I think that's a bit more affordable in terms of operational costs. So maybe that's something she wants to, look into. I know she's not doing cocktails, but it's still, beverage. So she can also consider seeking investments by giving some equity. I know it's not everyone that's comfortable with that, but maybe it's something to think about, giving off some equity to a potential investor, or just structuring some kind of debt repayment approach to help with cash flow. So that's for Zobo. And then the last is the
Texas.
Okay. So I'll just add to what has been said already that it's possible to engage experts like strategists, business development experts, and accountants, or even as my fellow panelists said, former investment bankers. I'm in investment banking, so I see SME owners, engaging people that are engaged in valuation and all of that. You can engage people like that on a contract basis. Of course, I understand that
she's a teacher. She doesn't have money. She's a teacher. Well,
okay. Can I say something? Let me commit to. Is it possible for her to reach out to me by email? Can you share?
Okay, so type your email in the chat box to her directly, or reach out to the panel. I don't know. Yeah, she's in there. Yeah, so you can find her and send her an email. Send her your email directly, or Tunde, if you can help, I can find a way to send it to you. I think she's already trying to reach out, right? Is she trying to reach out? Who's that? Who's just joining? I saw panelists just joined. Is that okay? Tunde, is that okay?
Okay, so she sent it to everyone. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, fantastic.
I have it now. Yeah,
okay, great. See, I love this. Women partnering with each other. Efe, your hand is still up. Do you have something else to say?
Yes, I was going to talk to the Texas. So one of the ways, because I'm a non-technical tech co-founder, tech founder, and some of the things I did was to join an accelerator program. So accelerator programs typically help you build that. I think the Zobo lady also said things like, about doing a pitch deck and everything. Accelerator program would help you. Also, and they helped me even find my tech co-founder or tech CTO. So we have limited resources in Nigeria because a lot of people are going abroad. They're getting jobs, in Canada and all of that. But if you join these accelerator programs, they have a pool of people that they can recommend to you that you can use. Also, somebody else mentioned equity. You would have to give up equity, but one of the ways you can package that and make sure that you are also not giving off to somebody who doesn't perform is to make the equity vested. So you can use maybe, say, over a period of 3 years, your equity will be vested and you stay with us and you do and build the right products. I think that's one of the ways that you can easily get people to join you if you cannot, afford to pay them now. So don't be too scared to give off equity, but obviously seek, legal expertise when you're doing this. Y Combinator also has a tool for co-founder matching, and it's free. I used it as well when I was really desperate and everything. So they would link you up with people who have like a similar mission to you, or people who have the skills that you don't have. So you can use that co-founding matching tool. Also, I wanted to talk to the person who I spoke to the first time. And I think Obubu mentioned, getting help and, all these things are expensive. The truth is that sometimes these resources are not expensive, and we need to take our mind away from everything is expensive. I cannot afford this. I cannot afford this. Some things have to give. Right? When it happened to me that I couldn't afford everything and I was at my barest minimum, there are a lot of things that I had to do to see how I could create extra income. So you can learn a skill that can give you quick income in the time now. So something like social media management, you don't necessarily need to leave your house to help people manage their social media. And a lot of people for that service, they charge about 40,000 naira. And a lot of people are looking, especially other small businesses, they look for people to manage their Instagram pages. Imagine if you have 5 of those customers, you'll be able to earn extra, for example, 200K in a month. And that can help you pay for the help that you need in your homes. And it's not such a difficult skill to learn. And if you are really somebody that is really looking to scale whatever business you're doing, you would do the things that you have to do to get things done. So don't necessarily think that things are so expensive. Another thing, I'll give another example. So very recently, because I knew that I couldn't be home every night to do assignments, for example, I said, you know what, I need somebody in the house who is learned enough to be able to help me do that, so that I know that that area is not suffering on the days that I cannot be available. And I started looking for governesses, and when I started checking for price, it was so expensive. I knew that I'm a very young entrepreneur, very at the beginning of my business and everything. I could not afford it. But guess what happened one day? I got a call from somebody who told me, she was my former neighbor. She was like, oh, there's somebody in her church who, she's gone to school, she's even passed JAMB and everything, but the timing for her to even go into school now has even passed because her parents couldn't afford to send her to university. And right now she said she doesn't even mind doing, the work of a nanny. And I was like, perfect. This is like, a match made in heaven right now. Come to me, and if you work with me for like a year or 2 or something, and I see that you're actually doing well, you don't steal and all that, why not? Why won't I send you to school? So sometimes, and obviously, because that will now give you time to also build your business, because you have that structure at home, and you can also now give her things to do in the meantime that can also build her capacity and also learn, so that as you're growing, she's also growing, right? And you'll see that in a year or 2 you'll be able to afford some things that you couldn't afford before. And obviously you did not pay a premium at that time. So just look at some of the ways that you can trade off value without necessarily overstretching yourself, and you see that it takes a village to be able to build these things. But don't always think that help is expensive or have that mindset. I think it's a poverty mindset when you think you cannot afford everything. There are things that you need to pay for. A lot of people also have bills that they cannot necessarily do everything with you for free. So it's important for you to respect that and understand that, and just see some of the things that you can trade off to help you, get the value and build that empire that you want. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much to you. My God, I've learned so much, and I'm hoping that the women who are in attendance today are also learning as much as I am. Now, to wrap up the clinic, because we need to end this at 6, because I understand that everyone's busy. Everyone has to get ready for the new week. I'm going to have the panelists give their final advice to our business women. So I'll start with Chef Obubu, and then we'll come to Eloho Mame, then we'll come to Chinwe Egwim, then we'll come to Efe Ukala. Then we've got Simbo Olatoregun as well, still in the meeting. And then we'll wrap up with Ife Durosimieti. So Chef Obubu, over to you. What's your final advice to our business women in attendance today, especially these 3?
So I realized I didn't touch on the Zobo woman, and obviously I can't touch on tech sticks because I don't know how to enter into the tech environment. But for the Zobo, I feel like recycling is something you should actually look into. Maybe you can do a recycling drive with your customers, let them return bottles back to you, and you can be able to get a deal with the people that make your bottles, or find a way. I think a lot of your bottles are going to waste. Like after drinking, they throw into the bin. If you start a recycling drive with your customers, maybe if you return 10 bottles, you get 100 naira discount, or you get a bottle free. They would always keep bottles for you and bring it back to you. You can be able to reduce cost through recycling. Moving on from that, I think my final advice to everyone is, do not be afraid to ask for help. You are not a superhero. You can't do everything yourself. You have to learn to delegate to the people around you, to your family, to your children, because a lot of times our family take up a lot of time taxing from us. Oh, help me reply this message, help me reply this email. And you don't even realize how much time is being taken from you having to help your family with things. And because you are proud, you never ask them for help. You're taking so much on your plate, plus their plate, everything, your plate is full. So try as much as you can to get as much help as you can. If you cannot do something, be very clear with the person. I can't do this, and I can't do this now, because it's going to be time taxing for me. Also, time yourself. Okay, 11 to 12, I'm working. If it's not yet 12 o'clock, anybody that comes to a request that's not work, say to them, it's my working time. I know I'm working from home, but create a strict boundary for yourself, especially those that have to work from home. If you don't create a strict boundary for yourself, you'll be everywhere and you not meet your deadlines. And I really hope you can do well in your businesses.
Thank you so much, Chef Obubu there, lifestyle curator, chef, businesswoman. Thank you. Hello, Mame.
Hi. So the last message I think I would generally leave, and I think it's important in International Women's Month, International Women's Day on Tuesday, that when we have these platforms, we use them to be fair to women. I think there's a bunch of messages that we often pass to women when we have these platforms. We say things like, a lot of women have confidence issues, a lot of women have this, a lot of women have that. Who knows? Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I don't know that there's any man who's building something that's audacious and doesn't sometimes face confidence issues. So that's one message that for me, I tend to always want to say when I have this opportunity, is that there will be times when you get up and you say to yourself, perhaps I can't do this thing. You're no different to the next entrepreneur, male or female. Everybody has moments of doubts. One of our entrepreneurs taught me something recently that I am now sort of telling everybody. She says that sometimes when she has these moments of doubts, rather than frame it to herself as a break in her confidence, she says to herself, you know what would Kofi do? She literally says, if I was a guy called Kofi and I was doing this thing, how would I react to it? And I think that speaks to the need sometimes to find our own audacity. And to understand that it's okay if I want to build a business and I just want to be rich. It's okay if I want to be a tech sis or a tech bro. It's okay if I look at what's been achieved by some of these companies and I want to do something as audacious, right? Sometimes I think we couch these narratives in, we kind of say to women, dream big, but kind of, be careful sort of not dream too big and dream the way a woman dreams. I always want to use these platforms to encourage people to be whoever they want to be as audacious as they want to be, and leave the responsibility for fixing the funding gaps to those of us who allocate capital. The problem is not the women. The problem is that we don't allocate capital fairly. And it doesn't matter how many times your pitch deck is perfect, a system that is rigged against you will deliver 1% outcomes. So we have to fix that problem. And I just want to encourage the women to continue to be audacious, to continue to bring their ventures to be funded. And let's fix the issue as a community of people who invest capital in these businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was beautifully said. I couldn't have said that better myself. Let's come now to Symbol or Latoregun.
Okay, fantastic. It's been a really fantastic session. All these women are loaded and they know exactly what they're doing in the business area. And I like to stay in my lane, so I was listening and learning quite a bit myself. There was one question I wanted to answer that was in a comment section, and it was how do I create my own online shop app? The first thing I want to say is that sometimes the answers you will have for some questions that you have are simpler than you think. So I already said this earlier, sometimes the barrier to entry for this is significantly lower than it used to be. You have to check whether do you really need an app. So I know many people are building apps and trying to check and make sure, oh, do I really need an app here? Or everybody's building an app, let's build an app. Not necessarily. Sometimes open a Facebook page, open an Instagram page, learn the skills. Some the things that you need literally are just a question away online. So just check online, how do I do this? And there are a lot of free courses online. I could list a ton of websites that I know they have available digital skills for those who are thinking, oh, I really want to do this, but I really want to do that. Sometimes just type in a question into a search bar before you even message someone and say, well, do you know how to do this? Can you connect me with someone? Type it into your browser and check whether you can answer that. So between your social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, the WhatsApp stories, the Google My Business channels, these are things that are very easy for you to do and can take your business from just the regular business that you're doing to be able to even connect more, let's say more businesses online or more customers rather online. So sometimes keep it simple. It's not as complicated as it seems, and for you to be able to connect to the digital economy or just be able to connect a little better. Not everybody is a techist that's coding and that have what do you call it? They're speaking with programmers or speaking with data scientists left, right, and center. Sometimes you have to start somewhere. More than 90% of the businesses here of our businesses are micro enterprises and not necessarily like SMEs. So just move a step further, and it's nothing about getting the MVP. So make sure that you're connected to in the smallest way that you can before you start thinking a little bit bigger. Grow where you are. I think that's important.
Grow where you are. I love that. I hope someone tweets it and use the hashtag Glasscon 2022. Efe Ukala, our keynote speaker, what's the final advice you have for business women who are here today?
Thank you so much. This has really been an amazing session. It's a wonderful panel. I had a lot of fun listening to everyone, and obviously wonderful businesses that were brought up to the clinic. I would say despite the biases, right? Because that's what we're still talking about. Continue to summon the courage to work, to bring your best self to work every day. Do what you do best despite the biases. Do not let that to cripple you or paralyze you. Also, focus and continue to build your network. I think Efe made that point with high economy as well. Continue to build your network and also build allies, right? Most of the time, your network and your allies may not look like you, speak like you. It is okay for them to be different from you, but those are the people that could possibly sit at tables and advocate for you when you're not in the room, or advocate for your causes when you're not in the room. So invest your time there to build that. But I think most importantly, and I think this goes to what I believe Chef Obubu said regarding, I believe she was the one that talked about the recycling of the bottles. And also the lady that had the problem, like she's a litigator. And I think I was trying to get her to think about possibly, at least for now, could she consider corporate, right? Rather than litigating, because that could give her flexibility. I'm a litigator that turned to be a corporate lawyer. So I'm a walking example here. So it's an option, but it got me to the point of thinking, when we talk about a lot of the biases that women experience and not having the opportunity, and said, bring your seat to the table, right? bring your chair to the table. Sometimes there may not be room on that table for you. Sometimes people are trying to squeeze you out of the table. So perhaps create your own table, build your own table, get your nails, get your wood, build it up. And that is where, pivoting really comes in, and thinking creatively of how to solve your problem without fitting into the current narrative.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Okay, let's come to Chinwe Gwim, and then we'll wrap up with Ife. Chinwe?
Okay, so I would just say that there should be some level of curiosity with regards to what is happening around you, whether it is globally, in your country of residence or home country, and how market information can positively or negatively impact your business. In the same vein, seeking information around policies and interventions that could support your business is very essential. Basically, research is very important when running any business. So please start paying more attention to what's going on around you. Read more, listen to the radio. Also, be very deliberate about deepening your network, join communities, and don't just join them and tick a box or be part of the statistics. Be active when you join.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but definitely not least, Ife.
Thank you very much. Okay, so my advice to everyone watching, like Efe said, build your own table and do it afraid. It would break you. Sometimes we're not used to it. And I'll give a very quick example.
Oh no, we seem to have lost the connection to Ife. I do hope we get it back, because I really, really want to hear what she has to say. Oh my God, I do hope we get her back so we can keep going. But ladies, I want to thank you all so much for your time today. You've been so generous. Thank you to every participant who got into the room, who listened on air, who's commenting on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, all the comments that you have for us in the Q&A. I wish I could go through all of them, but unfortunately I cannot, because we have just 2 hours, and 2 hours is not enough time to get into it. Maybe next year, for our International Women's Day event, we'll come back and do business again. Maybe not, but I just want to say thank you. We've come to the end of yet another amazing Glass Ceiling Convention. A big thank you to everyone who attended. You made it special, and we made it for you. Thank you to every single one of our panelists for doing an amazing job. You've really given us a practical education here today. Efe Ukala joined us from the United States. Thank you so much, Efe, for making out time in your morning to join this conversation. And thank you to all our partners, the British High Commission, the Canadian High Commission, and Guinness Nigeria, who have brought Glasscon to life yet again this year. For our next steps, the Glasscon team will take the insights shared here and develop a manifesto. Then next, we'll reach out to the women who are interested in being part of the Glasscon working group. That group will find ways to share the manifesto with different stakeholders and find the specific interventions that can happen in the coming year to bring these manifesto points to life. I'm going to be communicating with all of you about the progress, but that was Glasscon 2022. Good night.
0-0 for the Dutch Eredivisie. For the sake of those who do have their money on some of these games, it's Ajax 2, Valvik 1, and Nijmegen 1, AZ Alkmaar 1. And these matches are just about 54 minutes old in their respective rights. In the NPFL, that's our own league, and we keep talking for development here on Nigeria Info, and developing the passion and supportership for our league is also part of our priority. MFM have lost in Lagos by a goal to 2 against Kwara United. It's over in that game. Selina Lokosa, hey, Alokosa, dance to my Makosa, hey, my Makosa. I'm sure for those who